Good afternoon. Velu, you and I have had several of these sessions, and in this one, I'll normally you lead these sessions and interview other people. In this one, I will interview you again.
Yeah.
Um, but I've worked with Velu in at least four different roles. And over 14 years in Salesforce. Um, and we're recently co-authors together of a book. And this is the book. And this book, A Master Framework for the CRM Center of Excellence, Introducing a Universal Standards for Customer Relationship Management COEs, has a much too long title. But all of those words seemed kind of necessary. And it's that universal framework that we're going to be using to talk about AI. Um, and the book references AI a number of times, but you've been doing a lot of thinking about how to take that a little bit deeper with each of the components of this framework and how AI is related. So I'm really looking forward to the conversation. And Velu, why don't you introduce yourself?
Oh, thank you, Charlie. It is indeed an honor to work with you. We've been partnering for a long time. We made some mess in our implementations, but we've been fixing that mess, and we are also helping others how to undo things that people generally do without knowing or knowingly. So my name is Veluplani. I am based here in Dallas, Texas. I've been working with the Salesforce or a CRM platform for the last 24 plus years. I work for a large healthcare services company. I also run the CRMCoE.com. I'm really happy to say that I partnered with Charlie to write the book. The book is a master framework for the CRM Center of Excellence. So we are not going to talk about the book, but we will be referring to some of the things in the book, specifically about the framework. Thanks, Charlie, for joining me, and let's have some fun with today.
Great. Let's take a look at what we're going to talk about. So introductions are done. We're going to start out with what is the purpose of a Center of Excellence, and then some basic notions of the Center of Excellence framework that we've developed and articulate in the book. We'll be looking at AI, both primarily generative, but also a bit about predictive AI and a little bit of difference between them. And then how to leverage AI for efficiency, some examples of AI-driven decision making, staying ahead of the evolving landscape. But all of this is in the framework. How does AI apply to this framework? How do we utilize this framework to kind of direct and manage the use of AI? And let's start out with the purpose of a COE. Hey, Lou.
Yeah. So it's what we all know. Almost most of the companies started doing COE or started implementing COE, especially in a complex CRM environment or multiple instances. So the purpose of COE is basically to drive the business outcome using a systematic approach. The systematic or operating model, whatever the operating model you have, there has to be a systematic approach. But when you think about even building and implementing COE, you need to be able to keep these top five business outcomes in mind. Lowering the risk is the number one for many regulated industries as a business outcome or a goal. and then user adoption. Sometimes, not sometimes, many times people buy Salesforce or any other CRM licenses, but they do not know how to help improve the user adoption, the end user adoption. Until you have the user adoption and then understanding the overall operating model, and one of the business outcomes that you should be looking at is reducing the operating expense. And if you it is then finally you focus on net promoter score and growth. A lot of companies buy CRM systems or implement the framework, hire the people, but without having clarity or having that North Star, the business outcome in mind. So everything that a company does, it should be connected to one of these business outcomes. So Charlie, I'm applying this one wherever I go, and I know you and I worked together in the past. This has been the mantra that you and I follow. Is there anything you want to add to it?
One of the things that we've discussed and talk about extensively in the book is that there's an order to which you should be attacking these. If the base items, like if your risk is high and you are trying to tackle growing revenue through your CRM um, system, that's not very resilient. It may not sustain some crashes and some systems burning down. Um, so we do believe that there is an order to stabilizing and building a COE that you need to make sure that you lower risk first, and then you work on user adoption and move your way up. And when those other things are stable, your impact on revenue growth through this CRM is going to be much greater. Um,
Good point, Charlie. I completely agree with you. It has to be a systematic approach, but it doesn't mean that you cannot grow the revenue until you fix it. But you have to
correct.
understand where the leak is, where is the weakest situation in risk, and you need to address that. Yeah, otherwise it's going to bite you. No, thank you, Charlie, for sharing that.
Let's take a look at the framework, and then we'll take a look at the basic outline of this framework, and then we'll take a look at AI, both generative and predictive, and what those mean. And then we'll go from there to how to apply this framework to AI usage. And then in the end, we'll talk a little bit about what conclusions we draw regarding that. So, would you talk a little bit about this framework?
No, thank you. I think the framework, certainly you and I created together, so I'm sure you are as close as I am. But what I am, so everything, when you talk about COE, Center of Excellence for Customer Relationship Management, what Charlie, you and I found, there was no common framework. There is no universal framework. So when you and I thought about creating this one, so we have several people, process, technology help build the customer relationship management. So when it comes to a COE, it is not just the technology, it is a people, process, technology, tools, everything that we talk about. So when you look at the framework, so the way we organized, if you go from right to left, everything that people do in the company is based out of a role or a function. There are about 27 functions, and each function uh, is designed to improve the capability or optimize the capability of a particular domain. So the way we created, you have a function is connected to a capability is connected to a domain. So when you want to, if let's say you are a COE leader or you are an executive or you are a practitioner, how do you know that your framework is working well? So first thing is, I always say, how is your foundation? Are you foundationally strong? Are you improving your foundation by fixing the functions that need the most attention? Unless the foundation is strong or more or stronger, it is very difficult to become more operationally more efficient. You need to be it's an iterative loop or a cyclical approach that you take. So once you are more efficient, then you can take some focus more on the customer centric work. So many companies, many large organizations with complex CRM implementations or CRM environments, they focus more on marketing or growing sales, but they try to spend too much money on, for example, DevOps or change control, or they may not even have a proper change control. And they may have a change control, but adoption might be poor. So the framework systematically addresses the overall um, capability of your platform and ensure that you are foundationally strong, operationally more efficient, you are able to focus more on customer centric functions. So that's how this thing is done, Charlie. At the same time, if you think about the business outcome, everything that you do, it is connected to either strategic or tactical business outcome. You see here, some of the strategic outcomes are reducing the risk, increasing user adoption, reducing operating expense, and of course, NPS score, Net Promoter Score, and growing the revenue. It is. It's not exactly sequential, but if you're starting from the beginning, if you're setting up your COE, you should start thinking sequential. But if it is already running, then you fix where there is a major issue, identify the function that is needed the attention most, and then fix it. It's basically a parallel process when it comes to maintaining your COE. Finally, the tactical, if you really do a good job of setting up the framework, and then these are some mundane tasks you can automate it using AI. So AI can be applied in a functional level to improve your capability and tell a story about your COE framework or how COE works within your organization, Charlie.
Yeah. I think this, uh, in addition to having a model that helps explain all the places that we need to focus, um, one of the things that is clear to me is that we can't control all of these. And in fact, no CRM CoE is going to have control over those 27 functions. There's going to be other teams that have control over some of those areas.
Yep.
And it's for that reason that I love this term, the realm of interest. It
Mm.
sounds like something out of the Lord of the Rings or some fantasy movie
Mm.
or something like that. Um, but this this larger 27 group, they are all things that either we control or can have impact on us or we influence. Um, but we don't control all of them. But we definitely are interested in all of these areas and how it is that they together play a role in our being able to produce these business outcomes. Um, and when we're looking at implementation of AI, it is in our interest to know how AI is going to get used across all those functions and
Yeah.
in what way that impacts us and in what way we need to kind of voice some direction or concern about how it gets placed in some of these places.
No,
Let's
absolutely. I agree with you on that.
let's talk first about generative AI,
Hmm.
and then we'll move over to predictive AI.
Yeah.
What is this generative AI and what is predictive AI?
So I did not know until December of 22nd about generative AI, Charlie. That's when ChatGPT, a company called OpenAI, created the ChatGPT thing. And ever since, I am absolutely thrilled about the opportunity it brings. And I'm also a little bit scared about the people who can misuse the OpenAI or a generative AI. So it's basically you give some input, the large language model, called AI model. They actually look at your input and then they predict an outcome based on your input. So it's a very powerful. In the for example, I mean, in before ChatGPT or a large language model, if you need some information, if you need some help, you have to go to Google, type it, and then it comes up with a lot of websites, a lot of information. Then you have to collect all the information and then come up with an output or theory or a summary. Whereas in generative AI, you give prompts. You tell them what you need, why you need, how you want that to happen. Then the large language model or the AI model, generative AI, it predicts it and gives you an output in a very, very basic sense. But is it relevant to CRM CoE or is it relevant to the CRM? It's absolutely yes. You know, the business exists for a reason, to serve the customer, to make profit, and then solve problems. I think generative AI plays a major, major role. And you see here, Charlie, core benefits. You know, I always look at the benefits into two categories. One, strategic, the other one is tactical. With this, it's so important when, you know, pretty much every company, Charlie, you and I know, the number one amount of money that they spend, sales, marketing, and service. All the money that is being spent, or most of the money that they spend in these three areas. And if you understand what generative AI can do for CRM, I think that's very powerful. So generative AI, in my opinion, it's one of, or maybe in my lifetime or my professional experience, this is the most disruptive, innovative technology that can be used by a common man. It's not like a rocket science. Only people who know how to talk about rocket, they can use. But this is a common man can use this generative AI. That's what I'm excited about, Charlie.
I think we've already forgotten how revolutionary the mobile phone was. But
Like
that
we don't even talk about mobile. Yeah, I hear it.
that did all kinds of things from enabling rural farmers in parts of the world that didn't have access to markets to figure out when to take their crops to market and how to sell across to into the urban areas, and it did all kinds of amazing things and continues to do that. Mostly stuff that we don't even think about, from photos to messages to whatever. But
True.
yeah, um, this is definitely taking it another step further. Let's look at predictive AI. What is
Yes.
the difference between predictive AI and generative AI?
So it's a very interesting. The AI has been there for a long, long time. And I say the neural networks, the concept, predicting something based on your data. has been there for a long time. People have written algorithms, and the neural network approach was there. So the major difference between generative and the predictive AI, I don't want to get into the two details. That's not exactly the topic today, but I will say specifically on the relevance to the CRM. When sales or service people working with their customers, so they collect a lot of information. So predictive AI is to apply AI technology within the historical data that you have. Whereas the generative AI, you may not have data. So you may want to use your data and train to predict in conjunction with the large language models out there, like ChatGPT, OpenAI, Llama, or Gemini, those kind of large language models. So that is the major difference. So big companies, until a couple of years ago, they were using mostly the predictive AI. They have so much of data, so they were applying AI within the company, within their framework. Now, since the generative AI has come up, which can predict much faster, much more accurate based on the the global knowledge base, not just your data. That is the difference, Charlie. I think
Hmm.
you have to be very careful when to apply predictive AI versus generative AI. When we talk about 27 functions, you don't apply generative AI for everything. For example, creating a forecast. You don't want to go to the universe and say, okay, give me a prediction on my sales pipeline. That's going to give you a pretty bad information. So you have to use your historical data. So that's where the predictive AI comes into play.
Yeah, let's look at some examples of how we're how AI is going to be applied to the domains
Mhm,
and how we're going to reference it. Um, in this slide, basically, this is a journey. It's
mhm,
re, it's we're moving from reactive tasks to proactive design,
mhm.
moving from validations to operations, customer centricity. And how does that apply in terms of applying AI in these domains? We'll get to some more specifics, but overall, what are your thoughts about that
No,
journey?
as you see here, Charlie, as you and I have been working in this field for a long time, many organizations they apply AI um, in a functional level, in a lower level, in a low denominator or lower denominator. So as you see the framework, a domain consists of three capabilities, and each capability has got three functions. So when you are looking at applying AI to a function, you need to understand your overall state of your COE. Is your foundation strong? Do you have a lot of issues with that? And how efficient are you with your operations? When it comes to running your marketing call center or sales operations, really how mature are you? Meaning, do you do a lot of mundane work? Or do you already have AI that is running some of your functions? So you need to look at this before you need to have a strategy. You need to have a good planning before you start looking at specific functions. And it is a journey. And if you remember, Charlie, when we were working together, every year companies, even today, specifically, we talk about yearly planning. And if you're a sales team, what will you do? Account planning, forecasting. But if you're a service, it doesn't really matter too much for the salespeople. You're worried about how many calls come in, how are you going to service them. And if you're a practitioner, which is Salesforce developers, architects, or CRM developers, architects, They really don't care any of these things. Okay, how am I going to write my code? How am I going to deliver my commitment to the customer? So this needs to be all properly communicated. Each functional leader should understand what other team is doing. So the COE should help to build the bridge, help bring people together, and then drive the change. It is a maturity. CRM COE is a maturity. I just want to highlight here, Charlie. Every COE leader, every C level leaders in an organization, they should use COE to bridge the gap.
One of the things we talked about, mentioned this earlier today in talking about applying AI is that, for example, if we are um, merging data from different systems and we don't have good standardized data, we don't have a good data dictionary, some of our data quality isn't very good.
Mhm.
Applying AI to fix that may leave us with more broken data.
Totally,
Um,
totally.
and it it takes some humans stepping in there to kind of figure out, is our data actually in good enough condition that we could use AI to do the merging of data systems and that integration.
Yep,
Um,
completely
so
agree.
AI needs to be carefully um, evaluated for usage with each of your functions, and rather whether it's ready for it or what pieces of it, what pieces of that function is are ready to be have it
Mhm.
applied to. Let's take a look at a couple um, the personas, and then how those personas might use AI with a couple functions.
Can I add to it, Charlie?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so this one is very interesting. End of the day, framework is a framework unless you have the right people to use the framework. So we have, framework is great, technology is great, um, process is good. You have a beautiful air-conditioned conference rooms. That doesn't mean anything unless you have the right personas to do this. So these personas that we are talking about here is end users and practitioners. End users are the one who talk to the customers, who work with customers, who bring sales into it, who do marketing. Whereas the practitioners are the one who actually enable the end users to do what they do. They build solutions for them. They build systems, and they architect, they integrate all those things they do. So when you look at AI, so you not only understand your function, the AI application to each function, what do these people need to know about applying AI? So we specifically, having a framework is great. Applying AI to each function or each capability or domain is great, but persona also needs to understand why they do what they do. So we have two personas, Charlie. I'm actually, I've been doing this for about almost 2 years now, helping organization, my place where I work, preparing them, help them understand the AI, where to apply, how to apply, what is the impact that they make. So whenever I talk to these folks, or when I talk about the strategy and vision, it is about the experience that they bring, the experience they will have using AI, and the impact they make to the company and the customers. That is what is important for them to know. How are you going to experience this, and what impact are you going to make by applying AI to a function? So that's why the personas, understanding the personas are the roles, and helping them educate is very critical, Charlie.
And the third persona that we're not really speaking to today, but is related to some of those business outcomes, is the customer.
Yeah.
Um, Occasionally, the customer is also the end user. Um, but in the end user list that we've got here, we're looking at internal personas as opposed to the external ones. So as we go through this today, keep in mind the customer is also an end user that or another persona that we may sometimes need to address with this, but it's not one that we're primarily addressing today.
Yep. I completely agree.
So we're going to just take as examples a couple of different functions. Why don't you speak to goal setting and priorities function?
That's great. So goal setting, priority function, Charlie, as you see here, um, it is a part of customer centricity domain. By doing goal setting, or this particular function is connected to a vision and strategy. So if you are setting a vision and strategy for your company, or improving the capability of vision and strategy, okay, or is your vision strong? Do you have a right strategy that will help you to achieve the purpose or the mission for the year or the goals for this year? So that is what we are talking about. Specifically, goal setting and priorities, a function is under vision and strategy capability under customer centricity domain. So there are how do end users leverage the AI? If you see here, setting goals based on the history and other factors. What are other factors? Um, Market conditions, political conditions, economic conditions. All those things matter when you do setting your goals. Let's say your CEO wants to grow the company by 30%, but economy is pretty bad. And there is, if you're an insurance industry, we all know the LA fire right now, it's a major fire happening, and you need to be very mindful. I think the AI can help augment that kind of thinking for end users and for the leaders, and intelligence assistance for surfacing tasks that you see. So if I'm using the system, if I'm missing tasks that I'm supposed to follow up, that can be given during the planning or goal setting time, and leads to follow up on based on historical data. So when you're doing a vision and strategy and the goal setting, hey, some things that leads not necessarily about the customer leads, you are also talking about internally whom you should be talking to when you are planning our goal setting process. And then finally, the practitioners, right? So when practitioners, how can they use during goal setting and priorities setting? AI-driven analytical suggests strategic priorities. So you don't have to go and run a report. If you remember, before AI, we all used to look at the data on Notepad. Then computer came along. Then we will start looking at the report. Okay, what did we do last year, year before? Look at the historic data. Now using AI, you can speed up the process. So the practitioner can help the company to st- come up with priorities to execute when the goals are set. So that's how I look at this particular function, Charlie, how to apply AI.
Let's take a look at another one.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, I think we're missing that that second slide. Um, let's what we've got here, and I want to flip through it so that we can let folks know where we're headed, is that we've got 27 functions outlined here. Um, and we've got sample kind of things that AI can be used for end users and for practitioners for each of these functions. Maybe you'd like to pick up a couple of these functions and talk about these sample
Oh,
suggestions.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely, Charlie. Though, even though, I mean, if we have to go through each function, we are going to spend a couple of days here. I don't think
Yeah,
people have the patience to do. But this is an example. This may not be exactly what you're looking for. You may want to adjust or create your own AI use cases. So, for example, let's take marketing. Number four, it comes under customer centricity domain. Um, uh, and those that number four, marketing, if you're an end user, you can do a couple of things. It can create email content automatically for you by creating prompt. You give prompt, it gives you a content, and then you adjust refine the content, use that, it improves your productivity. And automated campaign optimization. So large companies or even small companies, campaigns get complex. Sometimes people add multiple steps to reach or design a campaign, but AI can help you to optimize it. Maybe it will help you to get rid of a couple of steps. So that is an example. For practitioners, segmentation. So if some marketing manager wants to say, I want to segment the data based on this category or criteria, the AI can help you there. And then also the predictive ROI analysis for marketing spend. Because for practitioners, when they suggest the spending, okay, how much it's going to cost to run this one, I think the AI can play a major role. So if you look at this, Charlie, these 9 functions come under customer centricity domain. By systematically applying AI for each persona, I think you will see a tremendous business outcome, Charlie. I think this is in my opinion, it's a major breakthrough. And I'm a little bit scared because there are some people who still do manual work. They will be impacted. They might be reassigned to different teams. They need to be trained. It's not easy, but if you do it right, it can really create some wonders, Charlie.
I think we're providing sample notions here,
Yeah,
but it strategically any CRM leader needs to sit down with their team and clearly identify what are the for each of our personas, what are the AI um, strategic tasks that we can assign to each of our functions, and which of our functions are mature enough to be able to utilize those,
great point. Very
and
good
then
point.
where do we prioritize? So this kind of chart that we have here is something that probably every COE leader needs to sit down with their team and create for their organization. And it's going to look different from organization to organization, and it will have different priorities and different possibilities for how it will be implemented.
Completely agree.
Is there anything here in the operations domain that you want to call out?
Let's talk about the workflow and process map, right? So this is something exciting for me. I was also a hands-on practitioner, and I was also in the end user category. Now I'm in a leadership role. Even think about if you are a developer or a CRM platform owner or a product owner. If you think you're managing, not you think you are managing um, set of developers, architects, practitioners. If you look at the practitioner side, people create a lot of processes for a particular every problem. Either you code, configure, or come up with a process to address the problem. And over the period, they keep creating a process over process. They never go back and look at which process is efficient. Sometimes we create processes which after a while, we don't even use it. We don't even need it. I think that's a very powerful because it's like in your house, you have a basement, and then you dump a lot of information thinking one day you will get there. You do not until you sell the house. There are many
Yeah.
people don't get there. I think this is a very powerful use case, in my opinion, Charlie. Same thing for the end user. If you look at end user for workflow, AI auto builds flowcharts from user steps. So you're giving control back to the users. Today, or previous to AI, everything was not, users are not allowed to touch, or they were given very less control on doing what they should be doing, all done by the practitioners. So now the simple workflows, processes can be done using AI if you implement it right. So that's something I wanted to call out, Charlie, for the operations.
Yeah, I'm personally looking forward to using AI for cleaning out my storage locker in the basement. Um, and I'm not sure where it's going to put all the stuff, but maybe it'll dump most of it in the trash. Um, the foundation domain.
Mm,
I think I think this one's got a lot of interesting stuff. I'm going to call out one that is a favorite of mine, and then let you pick up on one or two that might be favorites of yours. Um, data, data integration, data standardization. Um, those are big deals. I think we've both had situations where we've been called in to integrate systems or have come into places where there were multiple Salesforce instances, each of them developed with different architectures and having um, naming protocols that weren't consistent across the board. Um, and some of those settings having no data dictionary, no labeling of fields, not knowing what they're. I'm really wondering whether it's possible with to use AI to go in and create a data dictionary, for example, or at least to pull together some of that. Yeah, I know we were involved in an organization that was putting together a master data management system, and the trying to go from a flat file to another kind of file within
mhm.
the data system was really quite challenging and took a lot of manual work. And wondering whether AI might have been very useful with that. Um, that's a notion that comes to mind, and I'm sure we've got some data people out there that have got a quick answer for that. But anything that comes to your mind that really interests you and where you would want to use AI with
So,
some of these foundation domains,
I mean, you already
functions.
covered data quality, standardization, integration. That's a foundation for any organization which wants to use AI. Yeah, data is the foundation for any organization for wanting to use AI. So that is, you covered it nicely there. There are lots of use cases for that. One favorite of my favorite one, Charlie, because oftentimes I get pulled in by the chief security officers and say, okay, tell me about the security or the health of security or access control of my or our company's CRM environment. I think that's where the AI plays a major role because
Mm-hmm.
I create lots of manual reports, do a lot of manual um, 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 inspections. So can you imagine AI can do a lot of things if I can set it up right? Okay, here is what I want to measure, and here is what I want to inspect. Here is how often I need to report. I can literally find information proactively, reactive to proactive. That's a huge thing for me with AI. I think that's my favorite because especially highly regulated industry, Charlie, you just can't afford to lose data. you can't give the data to the wrong people internally. I'm talking about internally, not even
Hmm.
external.
Hmm.
And I think that's my favorite one, Charlie.
Yeah, for a number of years, we've seen flagging of data leakage in chat and emails, that capability being available in some corporate email systems that have gotten flagged or something. And I know I've been in settings where every year you're tested to make sure that you're not um, passing on or or opening spam, and when that happens, you get flagged and go through some training and so on. But I think some of the other security compliance stuff that you're talking about um, has some real value to it that'll go well beyond that. Um, so we've referenced this needing to look at the application of AI in our functions in terms of the maturity that we're in, but what's this notion of balancing it across functions? What
Yeah,
conclusion do you want to
it's a, it's a
call
very,
out here?
it's like this, Charlie. Any organization, if you are investing money in one area without knowing how they impact to the other area. For example, you're applying AI to call center. Your call center AI, it's basically reducing number of calls, improving the promoter score. But the salespeople who use archaic process to sell to their customers, it is imbalance because you're investing in service capability AI, but whereas the sales side you are not investing. Sales operations, whether it's the sales, general sales processes. So let's say you invest money in sales, service, marketing, because usually that's where many companies, almost all companies invest most amount of money. What about the foundation? Your access is pretty bad, access control, and your risk management is pretty weak. So what happens is you are building on top of the funnel or the building, whereas your foundation is shaky. What will happen? Do you think that will be sustainable? It's not. So, this is why the framework is so important. Education of the framework from top leaders to all the way to the practitioner level is important. And anything that you do, any function you do, whenever you apply AI to a function, you should know how it impacts the other function. And if you are unable to do that, please do not do AI. It's going to mess up and speed up the mess faster than ever before that you ever had it. So that's my hands-on experience. I experienced it. So I think what we have discussed, Charlie, for today, the framework, understanding the impact is so critical before you even start thinking about AI. Applying AI, you should think about AI, but it's already too late if you're not thinking about. But application is very critical. So that's how I look at it, Charlie. It has to be a balanced act. And so the question you may ask me, okay, how do you do that? That's where the leadership should collaborate with the right stakeholders and decide.
I think the other point of balance that needs to be considered is within a given function, do you have the humans who are capable of evaluating whether
And
the AI
there you
is
go.
providing real, real and accurate information, or whether it's just making stuff up that's not useful to you and is maybe breaking things. So if those people are not present to be able to do that, and you just set it on automation, and let it go, you may automatically send out a lot of flops.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a very, very, very important. I would not do AI until I have a good understanding about the entire framework and the impact that brings if do AI.
Um, well, this is something we're going to need to spend some more time on. But I think as an introduction to the topic, it's been great. And I think in terms of the framework that we keep referencing, um, the book CRM CoE, um, a master framework for CRM CoE, is an excellent resource. I think we're going to need to do some additional resources around how this all applies to AI. And I really appreciate the thinking you've done on that and pulling this together.
Thank you, Charlie. I really appreciate it. What I'm excited about it, if you think about HTML, PMP, or project management, data management, everything there is a framework. Even to build a house framework, build a road framework. How come COE doesn't have framework? I think the way you and I are addressing, helping the community, helping our organization, I think they will get a good benefit. I'm really excited about the framework and moreover, applying AI to the framework.
Well, thank you. And I hope to continue this conversation.
Thank you, Charlie.